Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Brynka Beacon. I am Jennifer Young, your host of the Brynka Beacon, and this is a free webinar series brought to you by Brynka, who offers flexible tracking solutions. So we invite you to listen, learn, and participate as our next slide shows. And if at any point you have any comments or questions on what is being discussed, go ahead and type them into the chat, and we will be happy to address them for you. So today we're going to be discussing get a grip on your organization. This is topic 4 in a 6-part series called What Gets Measured Gets Improved. So today you're going to receive some practical advice from our dynamic duo on how and why measuring a handful of key numbers leads to better results and decision making, and how tracking a handful of numbers are going to help you to cut through the noise and busy work to make sure that you're doing the right things that lead to your success and the overall health and success to your department and organization. So leading our discussion today, we have Brenda Fick. She is the president of Brynka, located outside of Philadelphia, PA. Brenda has been in the mailing industry for over 30 years and has been speaking about mail and distribution for many years, bringing her vast expertise to interactive conferences that discuss issues and processes in a workshop environment. And then also joining us, we have our guest speaker, Denise Haney. Denise is a certified EOS implementer with EOS Worldwide. She's an entrepreneur that helps organizations break through their ceilings to achieve personal and business growth. We here at Brynka have had the pleasure of working with Denise, and her knowledge and help have really been invaluable. So we recommend anyone that wants to can take advantage of a free 90-minute consultation with Denise. And if that's something that interests you, you can reach out to us after this session today, and we will put you in contact with her. And we also have Todd DeVries online. Todd is organizing our Brynka Beacon today for us. So thank you for that. And welcome, ladies.
Thank you so much, Jen, for the kind introduction. And thanks again for the opportunity. I just, love taking the opportunity to speak to people and show them some areas where they can really start to make some improvements in the business just to get more out of it, help it run easier, and, ultimately live that better life. So as Jen mentioned, I'm an EOS implementer, and what that really means is I teach entrepreneurial companies work with their leadership teams to really strengthen 6 key components of their business. And you'll see these areas on the screen here. So this is the EOS model. And when we start to work together, like I did with Brynka, I had the pleasure of working with them. And, we continue to work through the journey of strengthening these 6 key components. It's one of those things where we know that all day, every day, we're being peppered with hundreds of issues. And the premise behind EOS is that if you can just strengthen these 6 key components of your business, you will actually, all of those issues that you're facing day in and day out, actually start to take care of themselves because they're just symptoms of the root cause. So I'm going to take 2 minutes, walk you through the model, knowing that today we're going to spend a lot of time in that data component. So vision is all about getting everyone on the entire organization on the same page with, really where you're going and how you plan to get there. And then we move to the people component, and we know we can't achieve a great vision without the great people, right? So it's all about getting right people in the right seats so that we can achieve that vision. I mentioned data. Data is simply about boiling the business or your department down to a handful of key measurables that gives you an absolute pulse of what's working and what's not working. So this is where we're going to really talk to you today that really, truly, if you know what are those key indicators or those measurables that you should be focusing on, you will make considerable improvement in the business, right? Or in the department. So after we strengthen vision, people, and data, we know that the whole organization starts to become transparent. So same way with your department, right? We know we start to see what those obstacles and challenges are and what do we need to really solve. And we're making sure that we look at the organization collectively so that we're making the best decision, solving these issues at the root for the greater good of the organization. And then from there, we take a look at the process component. Really, when we strengthen process component, it's all about identifying that handful of core processes that makes your business run really well and making sure that we're doing them the right and best way every single time. So when we start to look at scaling and creating consistency and even increasing the profitability of the business, we truly know that we can attribute a lot of that to strengthening that process component. And then last but not least, we have that great big vision. We need to bring it down to the ground, and we do that with strengthening traction. So that's what the traction component is all about, making sure that we're not only just thinking and creating that vision, we're actually executing on it with discipline and accountability. So that's the EOS model. And it's all about strengthening each one of these components. And Brenda thought it would be really valuable for us to kind of talk through this today, because we know that if we can look at some of the key measurables or the key things that you should be looking at in your department, you can make some drastic improvements. So what I'm going to do is they're going to pull up the next slide, and I'm going to talk to you a bit about a scorecard and just an overall example of what a scorecard can do. So when we talk about scorecard, I mentioned it's really identifying a handful of key measurables. And these measurables are leading. You know, we talk about the difference between a leading indicator and a lagging indicator. Leading means that it's the activity that we should be doing, activity-based things that we should be doing so that we know we're being successful in our position and in our department. So leading indicators lead us to the outcomes we need to achieve. So what are those handful of measurables that you really should be keeping your eye on? Because we know if we can dial it in on just a handful of numbers, it will lead us to success. So then we need to set that goal. Again, these are weekly, so we're on a weekly basis. We're really looking at these measurables. We have a set goal. What do we need to achieve to be successful and achieve that outcome? And then what we need to do is assign a person. So who is really keeping or held accountable for keeping these numbers on track? And that's where this whole what gets measured gets improved. We combine that with the 13 weeks of history at a glance. 13 weeks of history is really a quarter. So if we can break down the progress that we're making and view it on a quarterly basis, it gives us the opportunity to see patterns and trends as soon as they arise. If we're watching the right measurables, if we're setting the right goals, as soon as something goes off track, we need to be paying attention to us. That's an indicator that something is up. We need to make some changes. Maybe we're not doing things consistently enough. So are we, you know, when Brenda starts to talk about some of the things that you should be thinking about in your department, right? Are you doing things frequently enough? Are you paying attention to, you know, maybe the way something is doing as far as profitability or efficiency, compliance? Is there the right and best way you should be doing something? So these are all the different things that we can start to measure. And when we use that entire 13-week history, we can really start to see, hey, is this just a blip, or do we need to dive into this a little bit more, figure out why something is falling off track? And most importantly, what do we need to do to get that number back on track? So that's why scorecard, work in progress, but it really helps us to see, do we need additional resources? It helps us identify if maybe we need more training, or we need some other people to help us come in and figure things out. So really, it's kind of like a magnifying glass, if you will. Like, it helps us really identify where we may need a little bit of help, or if we're just not, you know, we fell off, we got distracted, and we didn't do something as frequently as enough. So this is an overall company-wide scorecard. Brenda is going to help us really dive in and talk about some of the most important things that you could be looking at in your organization. Go ahead, Brenda. Do you want to take it away?
Yeah, thank you very much, Denise. And thank you for all your help with Brynka. We truly appreciate it. We get so excited when we have our quarterly meetings and go over our specific measurables. But what I wanted to talk about today was both Peggy and I were thinking about what measurables do facility services have. So we came up with some ideas that we wanted to talk about and discuss. The first thing, if you go to the next slide, is weekly revenue. So we look at our weekly revenue, but when discussing with Peggy, we were thinking, okay, not everybody keeps track of their weekly revenue. So how can I improve that feature? How can I make it a measurable? So if you're not doing it now, one of the things that you may want to start doing is, what can I measure? What revenue do I bring in? Starting with mail. You know, you may keep track of your mail monthly, but do you keep track of it weekly? Is it a consistent? You can also look at what departments you use or service. And one of the things that Peggy did with WashU, which Peggy, I'll have you talk about what you did at WashU for getting more mail within your facility, and how that helped the university in total.
All right. Well, as Brenda said, you know, we all have hidden customers, if you will. In the case of Washington University in St. Louis, we started to consolidate the metering services. Departments had their own meters, and we were able to consolidate. They were able to save the dollars with regard to the meters, and those departments became customers of the mail and receiving operations. Now, that was really early on, but during the time when we were consolidating with the School of Medicine. So you probably have many branches, and I know we have corporations and some companies on the call as well. So you have a lot of departments, you have divisions, you have different offices in the same town, in other cities, in other countries. What else can you be providing to all of the customers within your organization? And one of the things that I found with the School of Medicine is not everyone had to use the mailing services, the receiving services. They could come by and pick up their own mail. If they wanted it delivered, then that was a service that they did have to pay for. And there was opportunity, if you will, for revenue, but it was also opportunity for the department to save money by being able to provide that service to them, or take on the person that they had providing the mail services in getting the mail and picking up the packages, because it was a very widespread campus across 5 zip codes in multiple buildings, in high-rise buildings and things like that. So again, knowing what services you can offer, and you can create revenue streams to help pay for that. And I know some universities and companies say, well, we can't do that. It's a cost break even, but there's other things like passport services that you can add on, that on an individual and on a personal level that you can offer to your internal customers. And even if there's outside people that have access to your facility, if that is allowed, that you can begin to gain revenue in order to get some of the things that you need. Shipping, a handling fee, look at your rate shopping, find ways to save money. You may pass along some of that savings to the departments, and some you may be able to save. Notary services, if you offer it, you could certainly offer a fee. Rental services for your lockers, outside groups, that is like student run organizations, or faculty or staff who want to rent a box outside of departmental, and if you have the access to do that. Money orders, that was something that was quite significant at a university setting. So that's some of the things that I wanted to add, Brenda.
Yeah, we also talked a little bit more because when you look at the overall campus, you know, what other services can you provide? I mean, the mail services area, print, they really touch almost every department within your organization. So if you're not hitting all departments, what can you do for those other departments, such as IT? You know, they may need help with getting, you know, some of their rentals, how they get their equipment to other departments as well. You can be that facilitator and offer that service, and it will save them time and money. And you can, because you already have people going across the whole campus, you can now start offering that as a service for them, but they don't need to have that extra person. Campus stores, athletics, libraries, auxiliary services, all of those different departments can gain you revenue just by communicating to them, offering the services that you have. And then that way you can, you know, you can look at it and then also make sure you're looking at that every single week. How are you improving? And is that number going up every single month as a measurable?
I'd like to just add one thing to that. You know, if you think about athletics and maybe summer programs that you offer, that was something that many universities offer summer programs. So you have a lot of outside groups that could be there for a week, a month, 3 months at a time. International students, athletics, when you bring some of those sports camps and things like that. And if you need to be able to provide a service for the people who are living on the campus, who are staying there or visiting, a place to be able to receive packages or mail while they are there, that you can open those up, especially during the summer months when they're not busy. So those are the kind of things that you want to think about, sort of outside of the box. Library loan, you know, auxiliary services, when they have outside events and things like that.
And if I could add one more thing. So if this is something that you want to set a scorecard measurable around, maybe it is just, you know, auxiliary services or ancillary services is what we call it when we're talking about cash flow drivers, right? So this is actually finding additional services that you can offer that would generate more revenue. So the weekly goal then would be to set a dollar amount of ancillary sales or auxiliary services that you want to start to add. And then, you know, you can track that weekly increase in revenue. So it's just one way to keep your eye on it. And it consistently reminds you to start doing activities that will drive the increase in those additional revenue streams.
Perfect. Bringing that back around to, again, the purpose of the discussion is to be able to measure that. So thank you, Denise.
Absolutely.
So the next thing is customer service. What is your number in customer service? Currently, are you looking at any errors or mistakes? If you're not looking at those errors, then you're not going to be able to measure why something is not happening. So you really need to put some kind of measurement in the capability of the employees that belong to your department. And one of the things that you could do is even make it a competition between your employees. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later on, but you definitely want to make sure that you're counting any errors or mistakes and making that a number so that you go over it with your employees once a month, once a quarter, so they too can say, oh, we're all getting better at this. Do you send out surveys? So some people ask, well, I don't want to do email, how else can I send a survey? You can literally send a survey with just the packages that you give out to your students or to your different departments. Or again, you could do an email with a link and they can take that survey. One of the things that Brynka does provide is anytime you close a service call, they send a survey and they have to have a 99% or better rating from our customers that answer it. And if there's any issue whatsoever, that becomes one of those measurables that we need to look at, discuss, and make sure that we're improving. provide an open house. I've done some open houses at different organizations, and that can really educate the different departments, even, chancellors, vice presidents. Make sure that in that open house, you can show them everything you do, and then they will definitely look at what you do and answer those surveys as well. So if you're not doing any surveys, you really want to make sure you understand what your customers think of your department. It's very beneficial for the future of your department and to grow your department as well. Do you have a website? Is there a website where everyone can go to and see, again, what you do, what you provide, the services that you offer? I know, again, with WashU, they set up a website, they had YouTube videos, and they used, I think, the IT department, right, Peggy, and helping them out to create all of the YouTube videos that you had and incorporated the right way and the wrong way. So it was also videos that they set up that were very interesting to watch.
Right. And I'll add Dale Bruning is on the call, and Lori Brady at Washington University, who helped create that and really made some fun videos. And I forget the one, if anyone's interested in it, it was a letter about, mail coming in that's addressed to someone, and getting it delivered properly, but the importance of addressing a letter properly. What can you do to minimize the mistakes, educating people, and then measuring what you can do to help people, help your numbers as well. But the website is important. How do you handle a nonprofit mail and things like that? The more that you can provide, the more that departments are going to come back and ask for your help, to see the services and all of the opportunities that they have with your area of operation. So make yourself well known, and don't be afraid to try some new things and have fun with some video presentations and show them what you have, showcase.
So one of the, I'm just going to keep jumping in here. And so as you guys are talking, it's really exciting to me because I'm like, oh, you could measure this, you could measure that. So I'll just, the things that you suggested here, right? So when we're talking about counting errors and mistakes, right, this is all about improvement, and it always ties back to our processes. It's kind of like a flag. Either our process is broken for the way that we're doing something, or our compliance is the issue here. So scorecards give us that opportunity to, it almost forces us to dig in a little deeper. Do we need to tweak a process? Do we need to add a checklist so that our people that are filling out, these forms and labels and such, do they know what the right process is to make sure we're accurate? Or is it just, somebody knows how to do it, they're just not taking the time, they need to slow down? And then we just have that conversation. If you talk about videos and stuff, wow, wouldn't it be great on our scorecard, if it is all about creating videos, what kind of engagement do we have? Are we trying to get views? Could we track how many views we get? Could we track how many comments that we have, right? There's just so many different ways to create excitement and to actually create interest, or just to focus on, to see, are we making strides? Are we improving? There's just so many different ways.
So the next measurable is for projects. And for Brynka, we are always tracking the workflow, and we have step-by-step of everything that we do for a project. And that is really, really important for, in print services, and even mail services. Normally anything that you get, your customer will say, I need it by this time. So are you keeping track of that accountable? Because if you don't, and you are missing some deadlines, that person or that department may go away. So do you have accountability for it? Is there a process? Does everyone know what is happening? And Do you have a chart so everybody knows this is coming in, that is coming in, this is the date that's needed, and everyone is following the process and making sure that all of these deadlines are met as far as the measurables. So for example, for Brynka, we can only have so many projects that go over within a quarter. And that measurable is, okay, what did we do that we didn't make the measurable? And sometimes it's just the customer had a change and we needed to make that change within the process. But are you really calculating it to make sure that you can even express to your customer that, we had this many projects this month or this week, and all of them are right on time. So, and then again, that goes back to your survey. Once they see that you are accountable and keeping track and communicating with them everything that's going on, that whole process, they're going to more likely use you a lot more for the future. We could go ahead to the next one, Tom. Are you promoting new technology? So one of the things that your department may need is to be able to provide additional services is some kind of new technology. So do you have business partners? Are you reaching out to those business partners and finding out what they can do, how they can help you? Do you belong to organizations that tell you about new technology, such as NACMS, the PCCs, NACIS, Malcom, NPF? Are you going to their trade shows? Are you in their organizations? I know with NACMS, they have a chat within the universities that they can ask questions, that they can find out answers. That's an excellent resource. Visit other similar businesses or organizations. Anytime you want new technology in any university or company that I've ever worked for, to get that new technology in, there has to be some kind of either return on investment or something that makes it so much better for an experience that new technology is going to enhance your customers, the students, they're going to see that enhancement and they're going to feel better about your organization. So having that return on investment is going to be high priority if you want to have any new technology. So understanding that measurable will be, okay, this is, you literally need to put together a whole ROI on that. So understanding what additional revenue you can get, what expenses you will incur. If there's labor savings, you'll need to know that. So having that technology, a measurable can be, what do I need to do to get this technology? And what am I looking at revenue-wise to bring this technology in? That additional, some kind of return on investment. So this is another analysis that a lot of our shipping customers will do. They will look at all of their expenses within shipping, and they'll look at the employee cost, and they'll see what this return in investment is. So there's a cost per package piece, and they're always trying to reduce that amount of cost and increase the amount of revenue that they get. So it's just one other way that they can look at it as a measurable. So budgets. This is usually a measurable that looks at the revenue, the costs, and everything associated with it. So you have a budget within your department. So if you if you don't have a budget, that's one thing that you really need to find out from your manager. Ask the questions. So if they say your department is this piece of service that you provide for this organization, okay, so this piece, if I don't gain revenue, or if I can't have additional revenue and I'm just a service, what piece of the organization is my budget towards? So if I have in a university 1,000 students, they're all paying $50,000 a year, what portion of that goes to my service level? So that you should have some kind of budget so that you can make a 3 to 5 year plan of what you need, how to acquire the funding needed. So you can definitely get involved in that budget planning, and your manager will really appreciate that, because that's something that normally, if it's not you, it's going to be your manager. So if you really get involved in that budget, so that way your measurable can definitely be the revenue each week. It can be the cost associated with it, or would be the accounts payable, measure that as well. And then when it's time to buy something or get something, you know what you need to adjust or can possibly adjust for either adding additional, in shipping, adding an additional fee based on what you've done before to gain that additional income, again, to turn that around to maybe get you additional technology or the additional needs that you will require some kind of funding. So getting involved in your budget, understanding your budget, and understanding that weekly is a very good measurable. I know you have something on this, Denise.
Yeah, so anytime we're looking at, are we under budget? Are we over budget? It's really good number to be tracking and looking at on a weekly basis to really dive in and see where can we make improvements. And knowing your budget, knowing your numbers helps you make better decisions and forecast forward. So budget is one of those things, it's not necessarily a leading indicator, but it is a good to know number. So if we have our eyes on it every single week, we know exactly where we're falling and what adjustments need to be made moving forward. So this one can be hard to put a specific, you have your budget. It would be hard, like a harder scorecard number. It's almost like a good to know number, Brenda. But the activities that we're doing, we can adjust what activities we're doing to make sure that we're falling within that budget and seeing how we can increase it.
Okay. The very last slide I put is employee productivity. And the reason that I made this the last slide is because a lot of this information will also be a great motivating factor for your team. Anytime you put different numbers or successes between your employees is going to motivate them. It gives them competition. Competition is a good way to get the numbers that you want in the direction that you want. And having them understand that is a really good item. And I just wanted to bring up motivation is our next seminar. It is October 12th. October 12th is motivating your team. So put that down in your calendar. We're going to have some different motivation skills, and hopefully a lot of you that are out there can help us with different things that you do to motivating your team. But the employee productivity, can you go one back, Todd? These are just some things that you can look at within your team. How many packages do they receive? How many packages do they deliver? What is their turnaround time? Any customer success stories? If you are doing your surveys, one of the things should absolutely be on your survey is, any kind of description or any kind of thoughts or ways to enhance. A lot of times in our description, we will have either Dwayne or Kyle or, some of our service techs, and they'll say, loved it, loved it, loved it. Thank you so much. So helpful. And now those kind of success stories with your employees should be highlighted in the productivity that, yes, we have a success story. And those should always be given to your employees so that they're always striving to have that better customer service so that they can be one of those mentioned on the survey, as well as the proof of delivery, making sure that they deliver everything that they're supposed to deliver. Those are just some numbers, measurables within your team that you can possibly look at for just working with the employees.
Brenda, this reminds me of Charles Schwab in the early 1900s. He was running Bethlehem Steel. He was in charge of all of it. And they had one mill. It was actually in Bethlehem. It was the lowest producing mill. And they tried everything. They tried everything to turn this mill around, and they just couldn't figure out what was going on. So he decided to go visit it in person. And as the one shift manager came off, he asked him, hey, how many heats did you produce during the day shift? And the shift manager said, we produced 6. So he took a big piece of chalk, and right on the walkway where all of the employees would come in and out, right, the shift change was happening, he wrote a big gigantic 6. So the next shift that was coming on, that shift manager said, what's that 6 on the ground? And Schwab was standing there and he said, that's how many heats the day shift produced. So every single person on the night shift was walking by that big number 6 saying, what is the 6 is all about, right? So he started to share what the 6 was. So wouldn't you know it, night shift, they're done, their change of shift again, the 6 was erased because it was in chalk, and a big number 7 was put there. So game on now, right? It created this competition between the day shift and the night shift. And sooner rather than later, all of a sudden, and the 7 became an 8, became a 9. All of a sudden, they were producing 10 heats every single shift. They became the highest producing mill out of all of the different mills. So it is really important. And if you have the right group of people, that competition and even just awareness of, where we should be focusing our time, will get drastic improvement, and, we'll have more and more success within our department.
So thank you again for that story. That is a really good story. And it is all about that measurable, making sure that data component, that measurable, and you are measuring, because if you don't measure it, it won't improve.
Exactly. And if you're not keeping your eye on specific things, your attention isn't there. And I say this all the time, right? I got a Volvo maybe a year ago, and on the dashboard, it shows me, how many miles per gallon I'm getting. Before, I never even cared because it was too hard for me to figure it out. But now, because that's there, I am constantly trying to beat that number, right? I'm using my creative problem solving. And that's what we really want. We want our people to get excited about, hey, how can I be creative about this? How can I improve? And I'm doing the same thing. It's like, oh, maybe if I set my cruise control a little bit earlier into my journey, maybe if I don't tromp on it as soon as the light turns green, not that I'm a speed demon or anything, but it's like you can do certain things to really affect that number. And that's what we want to do. We want to create awareness. We want these key measurables that we know will make a huge difference for our department. We want to be eyes on that every single week. How can we improve? We want our team to come to us with ideas of how can we improve? How can we get better? So it's just about awareness. It's really tweaking that goal, constantly striving to be better. So if our scorecard's green all the time, good, let's stretch ourselves. Let's not stay status quo. How else can we improve? So it is all about competition. It is all about those numbers, and it is all about having our eyes on that scorecard. Peggy, you had something you wanted to share.
think it goes along. Thank you, Denise. Again, that was a great story. When I think about the university setting and the years and the number of employees over the 30 some years, the ideas gained from your own staff. Don't be afraid to ask them for what you think they think would work. And again, I have to refer to something that Dale did put in the chat if you didn't have a chance. It's a link to a YouTube video that they did in fact create, The Tale of Two Letters. It's very clever. They had a lot of fun doing it. And what happens, you know, if a letter doesn't get addressed properly? This is what can happen. And it just created a little story, a little bit of humor, but a reality that there can be a lot of issues if you do not address things properly. And so bring that to the attention of your customers, share the success stories, how that helped improve. People started to think about it, that I do need that box number. I do need that mail stop on there. And this video, this education helped us improve our numbers to get to a better turnaround on the inbound mail. Okay, so have fun with what you do. Bring your staff into the mix and get their input and their feedback.
All right. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Peggy and Denise. The next of our 6-part webinar series is Thursday, October 12th, Motivating Your Team. Peggy's going to be reaching out to some of you for your ideas on how you motivate the team. We really want you to let us know what you think can be beneficial. And we're hoping for a lot of interchange of encouragement for everybody trying to motivate their team. So that is October 12th. Once again, thanks everybody. Peggy, Mark, Jen, Todd, Denise, thank you so much for attending. We really, truly appreciate it. This will be on the website by when, Todd? Available?
Probably the end of the week.
Yeah, probably for the end of the week. So go ahead and download the recording. You can even show it to your manager, to other people. Come up with ideas for those measurables. It will enhance your department, no doubt. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
I'll
Thank
make a
you.
commitment to send that video to everyone who was on this call today. The Tale of Two Letters and a couple of other ones.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity. Have a great week.
Okay, bye now.
Bye.